Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for match 2 of the LCO. But before we get into things, I want to say thank you all for not only predicting with almost 500,000 points on that previous match.
Wow.
Ladies and gents, the fact that you've even worked up 500,000 points is something that I'm very excited about because we've only been going for 2 weeks. So, you know, congratulations and thank you very much for watching enough to generate that many points. And looks like, I think that left side is, or the highest amount of single points bet was 30,010 by Mr. Polkisa. So, good on you, mate. Good on you. And I hope you happy with your winnings. As you know, on the other side of the coin there you got Hamdy7 who only bet 30,000. Big deal. And you lost them all. So hopefully you'll have a good time recouping those points. Anyways, let's move on the conversation towards match number 2, which of course is going to be at Direwolves taking on Gravitas. So, initial thoughts on how this one's going to go and what it means for both these teams. Jordan, do you want to have a quick chat about why Direwolves need this win?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty important for Direwolves. It's definitely important for Gravitas as well, considering where they are on the scoreboard. But you look at it, and this is actually the 5th place and the 6th place team. Knowing that we get 5 teams through to playoffs, it's a pretty big deal for Direwolves. If they do actually win this, their closest competition also then subsequently gets a loss. Direwolves goes up, Gravitas goes down. And so it's the perfect kind of result for Direwolves if they can win. If they lose, though, well, then that throws everything out the window, and Gravitas are within striking distance of taking that 5th place off of them. I'm sure Mammoth would be quite eager to try and catch up as well.
And Rusty, would you say there are some standout players so far from this lineup that have really been trying their hardest, or at least have been doing much better than the rest on paper?
Yeah, I wouldn't say trying the hardest has a major difference.
Yes.
But I would say that Shock has been above and beyond a standout player for the team. Statistically speaking, you know, he's been the most involved in all of the kills that happens. He does the most damage per minute. He doesn't even have the most gold per minute on his team. So statistically, he's been playing out of his mind. You see it in his gameplay actually being reflected as well, as anytime they seem to be doing well, it's on the back of him doing something positive. The other thing that I would take away from Direwolves, while I was looking at the stats of Direwolves, just in case you guys haven't worked that out by now, is that Gunkrab gets a lot of resources. So they really do try and put Gunkrab on the pedestal to succeed and have him carry, but it's Shock doing most of the work so far.
Yeah, and he's been doing a really good job. I love that Jinx play the other day with the read, you know, the, was it the Super Mega Death Rocket? Is that, did I get that one down, Pat?
That's it. You
yes.
got it.
Oh, look at that. Learning as we go. Super Mega Death Rocket sniping across map is something we love to see. So hopefully maybe a bit more Jinx in the lineup today. But speaking of lineups, let's have a look at Gravitas, the other side of the field, other side of the rift, rather, as they are going to be really wanting this win. This is another great opportunity for Gravitas to try to contest for that 5th spot, and going up against Direwolves, who are currently in 5th, this is the place that they need to start things.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, Gravitas have a lot of the makings of really solid gameplay in a macro sense, which is probably the last thing to really come across for a lot of these new teams, who tend to just be young challenger players who will do the micro mechanics and then have to learn the rest. But even, you know, in some of their defeats, what we have seen from them is a solid foundation that just isn't complete. And if they are able to actually finish that off, like for example, the last game Safa did have a shocker. If he's able to, you know, shore that up, the rest of the team look good, suddenly they're taking games off better teams. You know, that is genuinely there on the cards for them.
And that is a situation where we find ourselves today. And someone else that we are about to find back on the broadcast is Nat's T. So, Nat, how you feeling down on the sidelines, and who do you have for us for this matchup?
I'm feeling pretty good. Keen to jump into my interview with Shock and Kiyose. Welcome to the both of you. Shock, you know, how are you guys feeling coming into this? We're getting closer to the end of round 1 for the round robins. How are you feeling in terms of where you guys are sitting at?
Obviously, like, we're not where we wanted to be at the start, and we really need wins at this point. But I'm pretty happy with how practice has been going, so I'm feeling pretty good right now.
That's so good to hear. And Kiyose, what about you guys with where you're sitting at the moment? How you feeling?
Honestly, not too good. We're just still trying to improve, but yeah.
what do you think is going to be the main key to winning this matchup for you guys over at Gravitas?
I feel like we just need to work on more like communication. I feel like comms is a big issue for us, but we're definitely improving in macro where we spent time to definitely improve that. So yeah, yeah.
Cool. And Shock, with Direwolves, what do you guys think is going to be your key to success?
I think their mid laner Kyose is probably their best player. In my opinion, he's one of the most up and coming players in OPL. He has a lot of potential, but right now he's held back a lot by his champion pool. So I think it'll be kind of hard for him to play against me, but I think he has a lot of potential and people should keep looking at him.
Awesome. And any final words that you want to say to each other? Starting with you, Shock?
I don't know, good luck in CS mid.
Likewise, I really appreciate what you said, but yeah, thank you. Like, honestly, same to Shock. He's definitely like a really good mid laner. I'll have to say like probably the best, you know. But yeah, just good luck to everyone.
Oh, well, thank you guys so much for probably one of the most wholesome interviews I've had so far on LCO, and good luck to both of you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
A very humble ending to that interview, which is a complete contrast to what we had earlier on in the show.
I've definitely done a 180 in terms of interviews there in the span of about 20 minutes.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're going to have another flip-flop straight back into the third match of the day. But before we get there, we have predictions to have a look at and see which way we have all leaned going into match 2 of the day. And surprise, surprise, you've all gone for Direwolves. Well, I am backing the underdogs this time, the other dogs that aren't the Wolves. It's Gravitas for Mackie Boy. And I think that this is a comfortable choice to try to get back in. Obviously, they're not the favorites by any means, but there is a bit of upset potential. I'm thinking it's like an 80-20%, and I'm willing to put it on the 20%.
I feel like you're just being nice, you know. You saw me get a rough prediction. You've thought, okay, well, I'm normally the one that throws my predictions down the toilet, so I'll give Jordan some slack here. Let him predict the favorites, and I'll be the odd man out for this particular game. Look, I don't want to go too hard on Gravitas. I agree. Like, I feel like they've had some pretty good games. I've also been pretty impressed with Kyose. Love Izari, sorry Rusty, but overall, I just don't think they're as good of a team as Direwolves is. So, end of the day, I think Direwolves should win this match.
Look, anyone else want to share their thoughts before we jump into a content piece?
I'll quickly go before I run off. But I do think Direwolves are coming into their own a lot more this split as well. Like, Gravitas is still quite new, and I think it's just learning no matter what for them. But I think Direwolves just have this insane amount of like self-pressure that I think we're going to see maybe a whole new team this week.
There you go. Let's see if that is exactly what comes into fruition. But for now, let's have a quick look at the content piece from Gravitas.
Whatever it is, the EQ instantly flashing away there from what would have been a pulverized combination and looking for a double kill as a result. But they get a fantastic trade. That's beautiful there from Isaiah as he manages to take down the Kaiser.
If he's able,
you just can't get a word in right now. There's the flash combo into the Crow Storm, into the all-in right now. Both flashing away, but Alazoric holds on for as long as possible. Pops the stopwatch and forces a full commitment of 4 members of Gravitas towards this bot.
Isaiah was able to... Oh,
Well, hang on a minute though. Yeah. Lisa is in a whole bunch of trouble. Yes, the flash he has. Flashing away, might have just been out of range. Actually, no. Popping the paranoid to then TP in as he comes in, looks for Appy. Appy gonna go for the explosive castle to try and knock back as many people as possible. Here goes Drowsy, Violet living, kiting, do whatever he can. There's the Crow Storm. They called out one key target. He flashed away just out of line of sight, but gets taken on down.
I think there was much in it.
yeah, look
And
at
overall, a little advantage. Never mind. Down in the bot lane, Thomas Chen, 1v1. Shifted, low, but has to reload. So unfortunate.
So you can see on the flank right now, playing goalkeeper, trying to protect and pretend that nothing's
He's
going
just
on.
entered.
And
Swaith's just entered. I'm going to need observers to replay.
Jumps, so definitely the ability to squish in and make members easier to take on. Dan, as we jump into a pause here, so we'll have to wait for communication as to what that...
I was promised at the end of those, there was going to be the Gravitas
Glory.
glory, but it's not there, so I've been lied to. So now I kind of want to change my prediction. Sorry, Gravitas, but I am hurt. Also, shout-outs to doing Swaith like that when he hit the blast cone and jumped into the dragon pit. Unfortunately, inting at that one kill. But look, be it as it may, that was a nice little couple of highlights, and we always love to see the content coming out from the Orcs.
I really think that highlight package was actually more of a Juves getting cut off by play-by-play caster highlight package. 'Cause that happened a lot last week. He was really on the receiving end of it. Every time he tried to get a word in, something would happen.
At least he identified it. He'd see, he's like, oh, well, I want a point, but I can see that something's happening, so take it away. And, you know, you or Skimmy would just jump right back in. Anyway, there is unfortunately a couple of delays at the moment, so we're just going to have a quick chit-chat and, you know, chin wag and wag our way down into the game, hopefully, whenever that may be. So, we've said some nice things about Gravitas and what we think of them as a development squad. Direwolves, you heard it from Shock, they need these wins. They realize they haven't got as many wins as they expected going into the season. Do you think that this upward trend is going to continue and they are going to take this win today, maybe put a few more on the board and catch up to the likes of Chiefs and Order sitting at 3rd and 4th there?
Oh, I mean, they should win this game, right? Like, everything is going the way of Direwolves when you think about it. When you look at the actual player matchups, they have advantages in every position as well. So any kind of advantages the team's learning macro should be gone. But at the same time, and I'm going to do my best not to throw the player under the bus because I do think he is still a good player, but I think Cupcake has become a bit of a thresh one trick and hasn't won a game on any other champions so far. And in a couple of those games has actually been horrible, to be blunt. So I do look at some of these options as like maybe draft opportunities here for Gravitas, ban the Thresh, suddenly Cupcake's on a champion that we haven't seen him perform well on. There is some chances there.
Well, look, Nat, I know that you've had to interview this man a few times now, and he has been only lovely. So let's have a quick look at Only, because this man is a demon in the jungle.
Yeah, certainly is. Only is an interesting one for me, though. The way that he's been playing so far with Direwolves, he hasn't really been standing out. There was a couple of highlights with his Lee Sin. You know, he got a 1v2, but they end up going down that game pretty much straight away afterwards. He hasn't really had any massive jungle gap type of games, and if you think back to the old Only, he was definitely a powerhouse that was just coming through and jungle gapping you. Originally, for those who don't know as well, Only was going to retire from being a pro. There was a big old video on it, some tears were shed, but he's back. So it could just be a case of didn't play a whole lot between seasons and now is really finding his feet again, because when he's his best, he is the best jungler in O's.
Okay, that's a big compliment you've given him. I'm sure there are a couple of other junglers out there who would like to maybe contest that
Pabu
statement.
will probably at me in the next 3 seconds.
Definitely who I was thinking of. But I guess we'll see. Now, before we go to a break, I would just like to ask Nat, because obviously from the fans is this segment, and you guys need to be asking us questions, and I don't know if you've sent any in yet because I haven't been at it, I haven't seen any. So I'm going to kick things off and say, Nat, who has been your favorite player to interview so far?
This is really hard, and I feel like I had a little bit of a nightmare if you were to ever ask me this question, because it's really hard. You know, I want to say Mboma because I think he was kind of the first person I roasted, and he gives amazing answers, but then, you know, Draku, you've just got to give the man props for the camera angle. But I think it's hard. I think I have a favorite on every team, but I don't think I have an overall favorite. There's just too many personalities out there to really give it a clear answer.
That's some good PR coming out from Nat T there. So congratulations for not playing favorites, and apologies for putting you on the spot. But look, I've been told that we do have some content sent in from the fans, so let's bring them up and have a quick look. You guys have been steady, or at least creating some good memes. Here we go. Davo Erlo updating things. We've got Mac as the pineapple, Elfish Boy as a carpet, and we have Rusty as a towel. So
it's clearly a
I'm
Persian
happy.
rug.
Persian rug. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I think that's good. I like that one. I gave that one a ha 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 in the
You know,
replies.
Davo's done this before, and he missed Juves because he couldn't come up with something. So I think he's definitely upped his game today.
It's 100% accurate.
Very good job so far with these. Hopefully he continues this trend because I really like to see it. Now, we do apparently have a #1 fan submission. And who is this? This is Vision_13. I don't know if I'm the biggest at LCO fan, but I'm surely the biggest at Legacy OS fan. Just ask my good mate, Mr. Tree, who I watch the games with, #1LCO fan. So if you think you're a bigger LCO fan than Vision, please tweet that hashtag as well, and you can win yourself a Teemo statue.
Find a bigger tree.
And it looks like he's got no competition so far. So Vision, you certainly are in the running.
Yeah, he's also finding a way to get outside, which is always a good thing. Probably should try and do that a little bit more myself as well. I reckon if you could watch outside, that'd be a banger, you know? Sit on the back porch. I reckon this is your kind of vibe, Rusty. I've seen some of your Instagram. You know, you love to be outside with your dog, and maybe you just put the LCO on, have a little bit of a watch out on the backyard and hang out with the dog. I mean, what could be better?
Yeah, I mean, I do own a border collie, so you try not taking that thing outside and see how you go. You might actually start trying to murder you. So, yep, definitely find me on the beach all the time with the doggo. Haven't had a phone there, but maybe that's an idea on my day off.
Well, speaking of phones, Nat, it's time to hang up on you, unfortunately, because I've been told that the game is pretty much ready. So we'll send you back down to the sidelines and see you after the game. Ooh,
It's
preemptive. See you later.
feels
Yeah.
really unceremonious. You know, you're just like, goodbye, Nat, and then she slides out, doesn't even really get to say a word. So
well,
rude.
hopefully, at least the mic was turned on so everyone heard it go, oh, goodbye. But look, that brings us to the match. It's Direwolves taking on Gravitas. Time for some sexy old champ select with two handsome individuals.
Well, what makes it sexy, Mac? Is it the champ select or is it us? We're going to have to get the answer when you do come back. But we do have Gravitas and Direwolves, so some more pressing even issues to chat about as we do dive into this champ select. Good to jump straight into the game as well, Rusty. Not having to, you know, wait around for it. Love that. Can't complain. Straight away, we got the Seraphine ban, so it seems Direwolves won't be making the same mistakes as Peace did last game.
I think we've seen a couple of Seraphins total, maybe two, and they've both been doing exceptionally well. So it is one of those champions where teams have been saying here and there, maybe we can afford to give that one away, prioritize another ban. They've all been punished for it, so I wouldn't be shocked to just see more Seraphine red side bans pretty much immediately and always. Note here as well, Gravitas being on the blue side could look towards a Thresh first pick, just because Isaiah is a big hook style champion player, loves the hook champions, and would love to take that away from Cupcake.
We'll see if that does get pulled out here. What's the final ban going to be for Gravitas? I suppose you are really looking for that Thresh ban, aren't you? Just on the Seraphine point, I think she's been quite strong in the support role, but when we've seen her been picked in mid and been picked in bot, that's where she hasn't really quite been able to have the impact. So perhaps there's something there as well, and we do indeed get the Thresh ban, so you may get your wish or perhaps your nightmare based on the discussion that we had just going into this game. It is going to force Cupcake onto something else.
Yeah, it depends how much you're a fan of the Direwolves or if it's a dream or a nightmare. We'll see what he chooses to go for. Right now, with that Nocturne being the third ban, getting rid of the Fiddles Nocturne combo, it's a Gravitas only ban. They still have the options of like a Kai'Sa if they wanted to as that first rotation. Kai'Sa's not invincible. I just want to really put that out there as well. You can pick things into Kai'Sa and be fine, but it just seems like it's one of those easy all-encapsulating champions that can just be picked first. You could also go for the Rel, or in this case, you could go for the Rakan and threaten the Xayah and you're 2-3 with a jungler.
I mean, she does actually only have a 50% win rate, so it's not like an insta-lock, we win this if we get Kai'Sa kind of a situation, which it kind of feels like a little bit more with Udyr, or did feel like a little bit more so with Udyr. So I don't know that it's necessarily worth going for the first pick. Rakan, though, obviously does throw a bit of a spanner in the works here for Direwolves as to what they might want to opt for. Again, I'm going to be quite interested to see what we get from Claire, particularly in that top lane, because he's been playing a fairly large variety of champions. Got the Tristana, so again, a flex pick.
Yeah, could be Shock, could be Gunkrab. Wouldn't be surprised to just see Gunkrab playing it. I was watching Solo Q last night and he was playing the Tristana, so just a small hint for everyone watching as well. Not that Gravitas can hear us. Tristana is going to most likely be with that Lilia. Again, you're picking this flexible mid lane AD champion, so you do want to have a magic damage jungler, or you're almost revealing your hand before you've even shown the flex.
Okay, not a bad couple of first picks then from Direwolves, but the response from Gravitas might open the field a little bit more. I almost feel like the first few picks are the ones where we don't get anything too kind of crazy, too kind of out there. It's down into picks 4 and 5 where things start to get a little bit wacky. We get the Hecarim to counter out and respond to the Lilia, which we've seen a few times so far. This is probably, I feel like, the most prevalent jungle matchup that we've seen so far in the LCO. Can kind of go either way, and Xayah locked in alongside the Rakan. So Gravitas still not really revealing too much, I don't think, about what their intentions are.
Yeah, it's just team fighting right now, right? Like they haven't shown if they want to have Saffron some kind of split pushing threat, which they could very easily flex into like a Camille Twisted Fate composition through mid-top lane champions. They have left both solo laners, of course, as you can see, as their options. Direwolves, on the other hand, are going to go for a top lane champion with a flex pick from mid and AD carry to open up the bans for Safa to make his life really difficult. Now, I have mentioned this a couple times. He was the one being attacked last time we saw Gravitas play. So definitely a viable strategy here from Direwolves. Pick a top laner, ban away the counters, and then try and play towards winning that side of the map.
Mid laners are getting taken away. The Azir removed from Shock. He hasn't actually played too much Azir this season, just the one game so far. But certainly not a shabby ban to put together with the composition that Direwolves do have. Could be quite the difficult one to deal with.
Do you ban the Ahri? You know, he is a one-trick. He's definitely a one-trick. So, cool.
I mean, I guess that depends on Shock, right? What does Shock feel like about that matchup? Does he think he can handle the Ahri, sort of shut it down? Because ultimately, he's going to be the one that has to deal with it for the majority of this game. Obviously, come mid-game, come team fights, there is a discussion there. But it seems like Direwolves aren't too threatened by the Ahri, so the option is there for Gravitas and for Kiyose to pick that one up. Still keeping on with the potential flex for this Tristana. We haven't had the ADC or the mid locked in. It's another support. The Direwolves get the Alistar.
Yeah, 2 carry champions being removed from top lane as well. 2 soft counters to the Gnar. If you wanted to pick another champion that could compete up there, I would pick Yasuo, but that's just me. I wouldn't do it in a competitive game. Top lane champions are harder to come by that do just outright hard counter him. Gangplank is the one outstanding one right now. And looking at the composition Gravitas have, they have engaged from Rakan, they have follow-up from a Hecarim, they also now have a Sylas who can engage easily. And this is picked into an Alistar, so is a monster. Once teamfighting comes about, you steal the Alistar ultimate, you're a damage-dealing Alistar suddenly, right? So the comp actually is quite open for Kiyose to play whatever he would like in its entirety.
It's going to be Syndra this time. I feel like ultimately does do a similar role to what the Ahri does and will probably be in the wheelhouse quite nicely for Kiyose. The answering pick from Shock is going to be, interestingly, the Shockwave champion, the Orianna. So it's a nice, well-rounded kind of a team composition from Direwolves. You can kind of see what they want to get at here. Big combos, obviously with that R button, and then Gun Crab just getting those resets and jumping all over the place.
Yeah, Trist Alistar is maybe the most dangerous level 1 and 2 composition as well that you can draft in a bottom lane there against the Xayah Rakan, who can also, W-start Xayah level 1. Just infinitely increases their damage, makes them super dangerous. So bot lane super volatile. Mid lane control mages, so they start to scale up into being scary and they'll whittle away health bars. Top lane for me is the place that could decide the entire game. If it's not bottom lane, just winning 2v2s. And that's an ignite on Safa to really make that statement known.
It's the first time I think that we're going to be seeing Claire on Gnar as well. So another champion that he's going to be pulling out. I do wonder if Safa's feeling like the way that you're feeling as well. Does he feel, okay, well, I'm a top laner, Claire's made that role swap. Maybe I can try to prey upon him. Maybe I can try to force the issue up in the top lane and relieve some of the pressure, maybe off the bot lane, maybe off the mid lane. We'll see how this sort of ends up panning on out, but now that I do have a bit of a look as we are actually loading into the game, it was changed over to a teleport, so the Ignite didn't actually get maintained through. So it's all standard, it's all fair in love and war. We've got teleports in the mid lane as well, so teleports all over the place, Rusty, and that's a little bit more of the standard fare when it does come to the summoner spell selection for the top laners in particular.
I was a little bit bamboozled by that one. It had me worried for a second there that Safa was going to go all in. I was about to say this could just be a 20-minute game if it fails. But it's not going to be the case. And it doesn't mean that Kiyose has to do any kind of side lane duties against Claire as a Syndra, which could have been dangerous. We will just have a much more standard game of League of Legends overall. It does look like laning phase will be the biggest determining factor, and that doesn't surprise me with Gravitas against Direwolves. They've drafted teamfighting comps, but they snowball so heavily if they get laning leads that you are looking at Azus and only to try and influence that. Similar to last game where we saw Lisa get a lot of Lilia ganks off, that is definitely possible in a game like this.
Yeah, I mean, we see the Hecarim for the first time in a little while. It feels like we almost often seeing it with the Kana selection in mid or top. Not going to have that little bit of assistance, but overall, definitely a nice, well-rounded team composition coming out from both of these rosters. With an engagement actually up in the top lane right now, Rusty, as we do see Safa and Claire going at it, tagging each other backwards and forwards. The Nah perhaps getting the better of that engagement. Always in the level 1, it's a bit interesting, isn't it? With the with the Nah.
That engagement does happen. You're a man seeing the future right now.
Oh, I am. Okay.
So we'll come back to what's happening on live at the moment.
Look, it didn't eventuate into too much. I'll say that much, so it's fine.
Well, we'll see how it eventuates in person this way as well. Claire and Safa level 1. Nah doesn't want to trade beyond hitting a single boomerang anyway. Realistically just wants a grass proc and will get one, and Safa missed the chain. So you're not wrong. Nothing crazy, except that will be a potion you would have to imagine used by Safa pretty early, which in this type of lane 100% can influence it. It's a Doran's Blade opponent here as well. So Claire trying to put down some damage, not just sustain with the shield.
Yeah, definitely. And we do also need to jump into a coach interview. Velixus available to have a little chat to here, the coach of Gravitas. Now, things have been going reasonably interestingly, I'll say, for Gravitas over the course of this split. How are you guys feeling as a team at the moment? I mean, are you feeling like things are going the way that you have wanted them to, or are you not quite hitting the mark yet?
Look, I'll be lying if I said that this is what we expected, because we did not expect to lose to Mammoth at all. That was a very disappointing loss to take, but it really did shake up the entire team to really, start concentrating and start playing better. So, yep, we're here to win today, that's for sure.
Well, that's good to hear, because this is actually quite an important matchup for you. I'm sure you're aware of the stakes that this is potentially the battle for 5th place, and that could be a spot in the playoffs. Has there been any extra degree of preparation been put into this matchup for you guys, or not at all so far?
Well, we've gone with a different type of playstyle. So pretty much our last few compositions have been more scaling bot laners, when this time we have a Zyra Khan, which is obviously a lot more early aggression, which should be able to unlock the entire team's early aggression in terms of how we play around our dragon control. Our early objective should be much more apparent in this game, as well as in future games to come. So we're taking a different approach, being much more proactive.
Awesome to hear. Well, hopefully things are going to go well for you across the map. Tell us about Kiyose and the Ahri selection as well. It's obviously not this game, but was that in the ballpark? Was it something that was discussed going in, especially when it was left open in the draft?
To be honest, as coaches, myself and Poltron, we pretty much said that we don't want to be drafting you Ahri, regardless of how crazy good he is on it. If you check his solo queue history, he's legit 83% win rate over 30-something games, something in Grandmaster Challenger. So he's really good at it, but at the same time, it does limit the amount of compositions that the pick can fit into. So we wanted to, still have the versatility as a player, and Kiyose has that. So while we have that pocket pick in our arsenal, we don't want to use it all the time. Same with our Nocturne Fiddlesticks, but I was a little bit of chuckle to myself watching them ban the Nocturne third and leaving Camille open. That was interesting. But yeah.
Yeah, I was actually going to wrap the interview up after that last question, but I'll throw one more in here. Was that really just a strategy that was going to be like kind of a one and done and you're not expecting to use it too much more? Because based on your answer there, it seems like that might be the case.
Oh, no way. Like straight up, a lot of our mindsets is every player will have like unique picks that people aren't used to playing. So when we can bust them out and catch people off by surprise, we're going to do it. So the fact that people even now need to think about Gravitas and think about Nocturne, Fiddlesticks, and even Ari and everything else that we have planned, like they need to be on their toes. So that's one thing that we keep true to ourselves and we're going to be exposing as the season goes on.
Awesome. Well, it's really great to hear your insight, Velixus. I really appreciate your time. I think we'll leave it there for you, and I'm sure you'll have a good time watching this game. So thanks very much.
Too easy. Thank you.
Cheers, mate. All right. Well, Rusty, a few interesting little tidbits in there, and I'm sure you've got a fair bit to update me on because just from watching, there was a lot going on.
5 minutes of catch-up to do here. Bot lane actually got forced to recall at level 1 from Gunkrab. We may have to hold that thought as only threatening the dive up here. This will come first, and this could be very successful.
Well, who's going to take the tower shots initially? Looks like it'll be Claire, which is quite smart because he's able to just jump out of there, no problems at all, and only says thank you very much for the freebie.
Well, level 6, that could have been super dangerous, but I believe a ward was in the bush that just died, so Kyose does veer to the side of caution. Rightly so. Shock now going to find Azaya as well. So, to try and quickly catch everyone up, Azus did get out path by Only. They both went for full clears. Only met him at the Gromp camp with a level advantage, pushed him out of the jungle and took the Gromp. That kind of cascaded into a lot of the control around the map that you're seeing now, that dive threat that was there. We haven't seen the Hecarim do anything just yet. Mid lane has been farming very well for Shock. There's been a lot of stupid aggressive trades, honestly. They're just going for each other. And that can make the lane quite volatile, but Shock has a teleport advantage right now still, as they both walk to lane. Kyose teleported top. So they're already in a very good position.
Well, Kyose maybe not in a very good position anymore. Gets caught by the shockwave headbutt pole to follow things up, and that is a very dead Syndra very quickly, and Shock's going to be very happy to pick up a plate here as well. So just compounding upon the extra advantages.
Exactly, yeah. It goes from bad to worse. You know, Kyose trying to help his top laner up there, uses teleport, now gets punished by Cupcake roaming. And this bot lane that we saw, you know, there is a significant CS deficit that came from Gunkrab being forced to recall and use heal at level 1. It's huge, but the wave has been pushed in, and at one moment they get, Cupcake roams, and they get a kill in mid lane from it, so...
Cupcake with the Hex Flash forward, and a headbutt pole to open up the door for an easy kill. It was obviously enabled by the Lilting Lullaby from Only. And that is a free dragon. Man, this game is just snowballing out of control already.
Yeah, massively. You can see the dragon reset only doesn't have enough mana if they wanted to contest this one, but the jungler was the person who died here from the side of Gravitas. You've also... Oh my god, he did it.
All right. Well, you'll take those as Gravitas. They kind of needed something to just get a bit of that momentum rolling back in their direction. Has been a rough game for them so far. That's one of the things that can sort of build the spirit back up a little bit, as we see Safa jumping on top of Claire, steals the ultimate. This could be bad news for Claire, and it is. Safa wins the 1v1.
They steal a dragon with a Xayah Q that does like 70 damage. Then they get a 1v1 in top lane after Claire has all of the advantages in that lane. From the Lilia dive up there earlier. He doesn't get the kill, I will say, but he's gone for the Merc Treads and has no real right dying in that. Suddenly, you know, Gravitas, they're still very behind in terms of gold, and a lot of that is on Shock, which is exactly where the Direwolves want it to be. Safa, though.
Oh, no. This could happen again. Claire under pressure. Safa low. Can he turn it? You never know. Healing can always come out, but Azus is going to get rid of Claire again. So at the end of the day, this is going to be still not an enjoyable time in that top lane. Good flash from Kyose, avoids the shockwave. Both his own ultimate into the Zhonya. And now things turn back on their heads. I don't even know which way this one's going. Only does die. Azus has committed for that kill. Shock picks up a bunch and is now 4-0-0 in the mid lane.
It's going the way of Shock. That's it. Whichever team's winning, it's just Shock that's winning. Safa's
Hang on, something's
teleported.
happening in the bot lane. Safa down the bottom. Isaiah trying to chase Gun Crab, but Cupcake might be the one that's going to be the focus of fire. Oh, is this a double kill for Gravitas? Just what they need.
Oh no, he's traded
Safa
though.
will die to the turret.
This is just madness, Jordan. This is just...
It never stops.
Yeah, constant fighting. You've got Orianna pushing top lane right now. He's going to get a couple of plates up there as well, Shock. And he's a 4-0
Oh my
Orianna.
God.
We'll see this trade again. Only flashing to try and hit that Q would have confirmed it much sooner. And that could have been extra health for Claire, potentially, but just missing. And now Shock's already walked up here. He knows that Kyosei is just there. Wants to hit the shockwave instantly. Good flash. And then Kyosei, of course, not doing the tab check. Doesn't realize that the stopwatch is picked up there and commits himself to death in an attempt to get it. And unfortunately for Only, that was mid-command protect from the Orianna to potentially keep him alive. But not the case. It's Cupcake mid.
Man, when am I going to get to take a breath? Cupcake's just decided to dive on top of Isaiah and Kyosei. That might not work out too kindly for him. He doesn't have Unbreakable Will available, and he's going down very quickly. Does dodge one of the Qs from the Syndra and survives. Oh, how has he gotten out of that one for so long? Eventually, Safa arrives.
Safa's just become a roaming champion. He's not a top laner anymore. We've got Piglet up there, just farming 1v1 against Claire. What's going on?
Gun Crab now. He's going to live. He's fine. It's okay. Everyone take a breath.
What's he doing
Calm down.
there? What's everyone doing everywhere? I don't understand. It's just, this is not even solo queue. This is like if solo queue had a solo queue. That's what this feels like right now. Just constantly looking for picks and fighting. Actually, this is what it was like when I played solo queue on the Ionia server in China. Just constantly picking battles wherever possible.
Yeah, I think everyone just needs to take a chill pill here.
Oh, we missed something.
We did miss something, which is no surprise at this point. So, nice work from Claire to get in there with the Gnar ulti. Azus ticks away. And they get the blue buff there as well for Direwolves, so keeping those advantages ticking over. I mean, the thing is, with all of this fighting, there hasn't actually been that much of a shift in the gold advantage. Direwolves have been able to keep it fairly steadily ahead of Gravitas, but they haven't been able to really increase it either.
No, there's just been constant trades, which, again, it comes down to a product of setup versus execution. There's not any setup, right? There's definitely still solid execution to get the kills in the first place. That's also being seen from the Gravitas side in response to their opponents. But it's not a 5-man set play where it's a 1-for-0 or anything like that. Objectives are kind of, at the moment, the scraps that'll be available on the side of these picks that we're seeing. And there's been a lot of active movement overall around the Rift, but ultimately, it is a 4-0 mid laner with a 20 to 30 CS advantage. It is a 3-1 Lilia jungle who not only had the stopwatch rush, but of course went for the Zonias first. So can team fight incredibly well. And really, this is still favoring Direwolves significantly, except for Claire being 0-2. But then look at his opponent, right? And it's not that big of a deal. The Xayah is the only place that I think stands out to me as like Piglet legit can win team fights now if he plays it well.
I think it's quite hard to be too negative about what's happening here for Claire because he has been really quite bullied by the Gravitas roster. They've sent a lot of resources to try and shut him down, and I mean, ultimately it seems to have worked. But overall, it's not entirely his fault, you know. I guess he did lose the one-on-one, but aside from that, it's just been Azus up in the top lane, and even there you saw he was sort of down in the bot lane kind of keeping an eye on things. This could be a sleep. This could be bad for Kyosei, but he's going to be fine. Isaiah, with the zoning pressure, is able to keep his mid laner alive.
Charge has connected though. The tower. Oh, shockwave.
Won't result in too much.
Them, though. I mean, it doesn't result in a kill, no, but that will result in the turret. It's health-wise, it has pushed them all away completely. Cupcake will hang around, and with a demolish proc as well, if that's needed above all else, they will secure it. And just to make a quick note here as well, that is Shock before he finishes a mythic item. He's gone for an accumulation of a bunch of small pieces and components, but because he's 4-0, they'll start to get accelerated. You know, the worst case scenario is you get stuck on this for 10 minutes because you've just constantly built your variety bucket. But instead, it has the full Leandries at 14 minutes with everything else on top of that. So it's a massive Orianna.
Party mix can always be a little bit fun depending on what you pull out. And Shocks has pulled out the Leandri's Torment, which is certainly going to help him out here. He was at one point a level above everyone else in the game, but now Claire and Only starting to catch up. So a fairly significant experience advantage for Direwolves as well, not just to mention the gold advantage now, which is going to make life even bigger of a threat for Gravitas. I mean, the one takeaway, though, for Gravitas is that they've got a couple of dragons, so they might be able to start looking to pressure that. But imagining they win a dragon fight here, I think is wishful thinking when a third one comes up.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. Looking at the way that Gravitas will play this one, you'd have to look at item spikes first for when that objective is up. And then you have to look at setup, because right now we do have an item for the Hecarim. It's the Chem Tank, so he's gone for the Tank Hecarim build. Claire and Safa again, just constantly fighting down there. Every time Safa has the Mega Gnar that he steals, it's a kill on Claire. That's a kill that isn't really okay, unfortunately, for Direwolves top laner.
No, certainly not. Not really the end of the world, though, for Direwolves. Obviously, there's no major objective coming up in the next couple of minutes. So I suppose if you're going to lose a pick, now is probably not a bad time to do it. Only thinking about pressing that R button, but recognizes that it is a Rakan who's going to be able to quite easily escape before the sleep does proc.
Very true. It does mean, though, that they will have control of the blue side quadrant of Gravitas's half of the map. Blue buff stolen away, given a Shock level 11 on that Ori as well. Shockwave will one-hit Piglet up there in a 1v1. But it's a Xayah with an ultimate and a Gale Force as well as summoners. So easier said than done in terms of actually getting a kill in a 1v1 duel. Right now the game will mostly revolve around mid and top side until the Herald is secured, and then it'll fully flip, and that's where Gravitas will have their chance.
Well, Gravitas aren't going to have much of a chance of contesting this Rift Herald. They'll just give it up. Might try to make a cross-map play happen down here. You can see Azus is there in the bot lane, Safa as well, but Claire showing a fairly large degree of respect and just backing away, deciding not to give up his life this time.
Claire was being smarter this time, of course. Gravitas knew that the Herald was being done on Vision, and they're about to find Azus.
There is a bush there, by the way, that Claire is in. I know it doesn't really look like it on the broadcast right now, but it is an Ocean Drake, so he was hiding inside of a bush. This will be okay in the end. No collapse for Direwolves.
Tower to fall, however, with no local gold, so a bit of gold gone to waste there, unfortunately pushed away by Direwolves. And now you can see the Herald secured in the hands of Only. The map completely flipped. We spoke about maybe that's a chance for Gravitas. As you know, the resets come in, they have to walk from base into the area of the river. Hasn't been seen just yet, but they are looking.
We'll just see a little bit of a battle for Prio in the mid lane for the next 10 or 15 seconds. Once that happens, then Gravitas are going to look for something. Never mind, Shockwave! Maybe I got a bit too excited. Nothing comes from it. No one was there for Direwolves, but that's a lot of damage, and you lose Prio. Cupcake decides now is the time. Flashes forward with the Pulverize, and the rest of Direwolves have now arrived. Onslaught of Shadows to his death for Azus, but it opens things up for the rest of the team, and maybe Gravitas could have found a way to salvage that fight. Unfortunately, not quite going to be enough, and it's a 2 for 2 in terms of who's left alive, but Direwolves certainly looking better for it with the HP lead, and they'll take the dragon.
Yeah, and once again, you know, Shock doesn't kill them by hitting his ultimate Shockwave, but it does so much damage that they're able to engage like this. Only, unfortunately, wasn't able to sleep all of them, I believe there. Xayah does just keep walking away, but that would have been yet another kill in the hands of Direwolves. I like the killer instinct from Kyosei going forwards, making sure he flashes in to get those kills and trades. At the end of the day, they just didn't have enough health to start that fight in the first place, and they were the ones being engaged on.
It definitely could have been a different story if that Shockwave didn't hit so many people in mid. But I suppose in that instance, then maybe Direwolves wouldn't have even gone for such an aggressive fight. So we reset things. Young Crab looking to just farm up a little bit now. Got a red buff there available as well. Bit going on down in the bot lane. The turret was picked up by Claire. Safa not able to defend it, and you can see Only starting to work his way down, out of vision. This could be bad news for Safa. The damage starting to come through as well, but Safa looks to turn it. Only should have Zhonya's available. No, used it in the last fight. Has to force the Lullaby out to survive, and does. Bit too close for comfort.
Yeah, that was a fantastic CC chain actually from Safa using that Mega Gnar as a Zeus onto Shock.
Yeah, cross-map play from Gravitas. Good news. It's going to work out. Aza's tanking the tower means Kyose will be relatively healthy. And Cupcake looks like he wants to get in there, but no real kill chance there with no threats behind him.
And whatever the reason may be, whether there was no one there to protect Shock or Shock had just stayed a little bit too far forward there to try and hold a wave, they'd acknowledged already that Only was on the opposite side of the map. And so they saw the opportunity for themselves, Gravitas, and they seized it. And that was 800 gold going into the pockets of a Zeus on this Hecarim as well. No small sum goes their way from that shutdown. And not only that, it was a Medjai's on Orianna. So that's a big mistake coming out of Direwolves overall, to give that money and remove the Medjai stacks.
All important. Can swing the game back on its head. Not sure it'll be enough just yet. We'll need to see some more from Gravitas as they pop the Rift Herald down. Not sure that's going to get a whole lot of value.
Nah.
Gravitas are just waiting.
It was going to time
ready
out.
to get rid of it. Yeah.
They're forced back to base after that pick in bottom lane was something that was going to be a factor there. Only just chooses to summon it. If they're lucky, it would have got a charge off, but everyone from Gravitas is here. Rightly so, of course. They've grouped up as well. And just to quickly reiterate a fact that we mentioned earlier here, Elfish, is that the bot difference right now between these AD carries is monstrous.
Yeah. Gunkrab not really being able to get the ball rolling quite so much as Piglet thus far. The kill helping out as well, that's for sure. But a CS differential of about 50 could become a factor.
It just means that they have money on carries, right? Like, you can see it reflected through the overall gold. Pretty much everywhere is behind. Even Azus getting the shutdown gold is still significantly behind Only. But they have a place that's 1,000 gold ahead. And that place is a carry. So they can work around a carry, right? They give themselves a potential win condition. They have Safa, who I think now should start stealing Alistar ultimates more if he's going to be grouping for these team fights. And then he's unkillable. And that gives like 6 seconds of time for Isaiah to try and be putting damage down. That just opens and creates space for them. And it gives them chances to maybe win team fights even when they're this far behind.
One of the big issues I'm seeing right now for Gravitas is agency in terms of playing this game the way they want to. I mean, Direwolves are choosing all of these engagements. They've got full control of the vision on the blue side, and Cupcake with a turbo chem tank is looking for another engage. Won't quite be able to catch up to the Gravitas players and lets them run away down into the bot side of the map. But it feels like Gravitas is having to react a lot to what Direwolves is throwing at them. And look at that jungle. I mean, you've got 2 pinks and a ward there as well. It's just not going to be fun for Gravitas to move out of their base. And that's why you're seeing Direwolves being able to grab so many free objectives. The top tower just went down as well, we didn't mention. So starting to snowball a little bit for Direwolves. 5k gold lead is looking fairly substantial. Dragon coming up in 40 seconds is going to be the next key fight. And pretty much feels like a must-win for Gravitas at this point in the game.
I mean, it definitely is, right? While it isn't going to be a Dragon Soul point by any means, in fact, there's a significant amount of time until then. For one, you would like to have the Soul point threatened for yourself for a legitimate team-based win condition. But for two, the way that this gold is playing, the way that the map is playing, you want to try and get some kind of advantage back gold-wise to be able to play around it. And as it stands, you know, the threat of a shockwave from the bush is too great. And that exists for all 5 players on Direwolves. The threat of just control they have is too great. Gravitas can't do anything.
Well, Safa has stolen the Alistar ultimate for this next fight, and we'll see how much of an impact that is going to have. Cupcake trying to make you eat your words, Rusty. Engages the fight for Direwolves this time, but will it work out? The backline is collapsed upon. Onslaught of Shadows from Azus, and Safa there as well. Actually nets the first kill for Gravitas. It will be traded back. No, maybe it won't. Direwolves, they're not quite being able to confirm these kills just yet. Piglet still surviving. Gunkrab dives in. Finally, things have turned over in the favor of Direwolves. It felt like it should be their fight win from the outset, but it took a lot longer than I thought that it would. But they do get the win and they will get the Dragon.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't perfectly executed by Dials, but the engage was solid. We already spoke about the risk of engaging, however, into a Sylas with an Alistar ultimate. He's just so tanky and buys so much time. And the Hecarim being a tank Hecarim as well was the exact same, but eventually they start to whittle down, they start to fall. And then eventually Claire finds his in on the Mega Gnar, and that really is the difference maker there for them. So good team fighting in the end by Direwolves. So it was a little bit dicey for a moment there, and Gravitas really did push them. And you'll see that again here. Cupcake gets a good engage. And it finds two people, gets the ultimate off. Safa now creates space with Azeus, and Isaiah also engaging the Shockwave, only hitting tanks, right? So the carries have an opportunity to survive for a bit longer. But Claire, just the ominous presence that he has, the threat, of course, as everyone gets close to the red buff wall, they just get taken down, and the combo is too strong with Gunkrab reset.
Such a sick ultimate from Claire. Really turns that fight around. Piglet full HP for the majority of it. And at that point, you're starting to think, wait, maybe Gravitas can turn this fight around. Maybe they can actually turn this game around. But as soon as Piglet is out of the picture, there goes all the damage for Gravitas. Everyone else was low to begin with.
Yeah.
The Direwolves continue to put in good work. It's not a death sentence just yet, though, for Gravitas. They have some avenues to come back into this game.
It was also pretty much a winnable fight as well. You know, that's the scary thing.
Yeah.
The Piglet had ultimate for the Gnar ult and just didn't get the chance to use it in time. Maybe that fight goes the other way or completely shifts and it's a more even trade for Gravitas if he's able to get that one off. But because they find the priority target, it does end up being Direwolves' favored.
Lullaby available for only at the moment. Piglet did just eat an orb. But Direwolves not too interested in trying to chase a kill that far. They're going to opt towards the Baron pick. Gravitas should be aware. They don't see anyone on the map. They think, what's going on here?
Quick.
It is definitely. Gunkrab is just pumping out that damage at the moment. And the Lilia also pretty good at slaying the Baron. Cupcake in the middle of nowhere should be a free pick. Pops the unbreakable Will and will survive. But does go down, and Claire again with an R ultimate, comboed with the Shock ultimate, the Shock wave indeed. Oh, dearie me, Gravitas, for a moment I thought there was some hope, but the Wombo combo is just too good, and Shock, I wonder if he's chosen that name for a reason.
I mean, he's playing out of his mind 100% with these shockwaves. More than enough for Direwolves to break the inhibitor and look for the Nexus. They have 20 seconds on any damage-dealing champions, 10 on Isaiah on this Rakan. But they can effectively ignore this Rakan and try and push towards ending the game right now. One team fight, one Baron should just be it for Direwolves.
I think that is. I'm pretty sure that's done. I'm not sure that Isaiah is going to be able to do anything about that. As the Nexus starts to fall well below HP, Direwolves picking up the victory today. 27 minutes on the clock, and they made it look pretty comfortable. There was a few backwards and forwards fights, but there was never really a moment where you thought Gravitas is in control of this game.
Yeah, it was always Direwolves in control. It was always, you know, the shockwaves dealing damage before fights, which, you know, most people would look at that and say, why not save the shockwave to win the team fights? But the damage was done, right? The objectives were secured. Gravitas with no way in. Vision control was always the way of the Direwolves. And at the end of the day, we do get what you would say is the expected result. But there are still positives that we could take away for Gravitas. So while we celebrate Direwolves, we should still be acknowledging that Gravitas pushed them in certain areas. And they've done that a couple games in a row now.
Yeah, indeed, and we'll bring Mac back into the discussion here as well. Pretty interesting game coming through there, Mac. The Direwolves getting the victory. It seems like it should, at least for the foreseeable future, lock them into that 5th place position. So as far as today is concerned, that's mission successful.
Yeah, mission successful. And of course, look, as Rusty said, you have to acknowledge what Gravitas did well, especially towards the start of the game. You'd say that they were leading in terms of macro, which is a bit of a surprise considering Direwolves, their macro over the previous weeks has been their strong point. And as the game went on, obviously they got back in the driver's seat and managed to keep things under control. And of course, I guess surprisingly, closed that game out towards the end after they had the Baron buff. Just pushing into the base, of course, was way too easy. But again, it was just action aplenty. At the 10 minutes 30 mark, I think there was 14 kills by that point, which is completely ridiculous and the most amount of kills we've seen in an early game so far. So it was a very entertaining and chaotic matchup between these two teams.
It definitely felt like it. It was any time we tried to get a word in about what was actually happening in the game, there was something else happening in the game.
It was like Jubes, you know, Rusty copped the Jubes treatment there. So every time we went to say something, Jordan's like, oh, well, hold that thought, you know, there's more action. And look, even a couple of these fights, this one in particular, there was so many points where it could have swung either way, even though all the Gravitas players were so low. But again, that charge from Cupcake really just sealing the deal towards the end. And Gun Crab is insane on the Tristana as well. So you have to remember that. He started to get a little bit of a lead towards the end and just managed to dish out enough damage. So very well played by Direwolves to secure this third win.
Yeah. Third, right?
Yeah, third. They're on the third now because Gravitas have the one. So, yeah, 3 wins now and still a chance to catch back up to the other teams if they can get themselves sorted and really have a good chance going up against some of the higher teams on the leaderboard. Look, we have Nat back with us as well. She was sitting down on the sidelines. Do you want to give us a field report quickly before we jump into the postgame?
Absolutely not.
Okay, well, just jump into the postgame.
I'm just so ready to get in and interview Cupcake, who I'm so lucky to have. Congratulations on the back-to-back win. How are you guys feeling?
Honestly, it was pretty relieving. I'd say our practices has been pretty up and down for the last few weeks. We've had like subs in and out and struggling just to find a groove. So we're really happy to win relatively quickly and have some nice team fight combos as well.
Actually, on the topic of team fights, that game felt so back and forward, especially in the early game. You know, walk me through it from your point of view, and how were the communications as well?
I think we may have had a little bit of a slow start. I know there were a few level 1 bases and solo kills and stuff, but you know, we're mentally strong enough to not let that affect us in our game plan, and we just stuck to what we knew what to do best and played to our composition. So wasn't the cleanest start, but we got there in the end.
Yeah, was there any point at all that you were kind of worried? You know, Gravitas got that first Drake steal. Did that affect you guys at all? Or were you just like, let's just stick to it?
Nah, that was alright. It was a little bit unfortunate, but no, we had the composition. It didn't really, they weren't going to have the 24-minute Soul Dragon win condition, and our mid laners just turbo smurfing on their mid laner the whole time. So we always had a point of pressure in a win con. No worries.
Awesome. And, you know, with now 3 wins under your belts, are you guys starting to become a little bit more confident coming into games, or is it still very you're just not yet there?
No, until we're winning every single game and until we're playing a lot better and until practices feel really clean and smooth, we're not going to take our foot off the gas. We're going to keep trying to improve as fast as possible because it's a really short span of time for the split one. So we just got to keep grinding, and we'll be the best soon.
Of course. Well, you know, there's only one more game left of this round, so congratulations again for the win, and good luck for the rest of the week.
Thanks a lot.
Well, there you go. It was a nice little post game, and unfortunately we didn't get the pitch report. So Nat, how are you feeling about that game? Were you happy with the win, happy with your prediction being correct, etc., etc.?
Yeah, you know, it's been a pretty good start to week 3. As much as the teams are feeling the pressure of, you know, winning in this round robin, I feel like I'm feeling the pressure on getting some predictions. I'm doing a lot better than I thought I would be. I mean, I think I'm tied with Elfish at the moment. That's pretty good for me.
Are you? Maybe.
Just have to double check that.
Hang on, I'm just double checking that one.
Let me just read that one
No,
up.
I just want to point out I am actually one prediction ahead.
Okay, alright, okay.
Actually, that might have been going into today. I'm not sure if it's been updated with that piece, that little bit of a piece throw that I threw in there. So maybe you have equalized things, but I'm just going to hold on to the fact that I am at least one ahead of going into today.
Well, let's see if that changes, because there's 2 more matches coming up. After this break, we are going to be watching Mammoth take on the Chiefs. So don't go too far, and we'll see you then for match 3. Oh.
Now arrived. Onslaught of Shadows to his death for Aces, but it opens things up for the rest of the team, and maybe Gravitas could have found a way to salvage that fight. Unfortunately, not quite. No, maybe it won't. Direwolves, they're not quite being able to confirm these kills just yet. Piglet still surviving. Gun Crab dives in. Finally, things have turned over. Still survive, but does go down. And Claire again with an R ultimate comboed with the shock ultimate. The shock wave indeed. Oh, dearie me. Gravitas, for a moment I thought there was some hope.